Disclaimer, the views in this video are solely held by the channel owner and is in no way a fatwa or religious ruling. Quite frankly, the channel owner isn't even qualified to do so. Please refrain from making takfir or calling the channel owner a simp. Thank you.
No. You are rude,
guys.
you are a bully.
What have you been smoking, boy? Huh? You're a puss!
Is this too much? Mohammed Hijab's Dawah style may come across as arrogant, so I wondered, is he too aggressive while giving Dawah?
You're nothing, boy! You're finished already! Look at me! Look at me! You know you're done! You are Ali!
Yeah, he definitely is. If you disagree with this video or have any thoughts on this, that's totally fine. Share it in the comments and I'd love to hear them. Hijab is aggressive. I wouldn't call him arrogant though, but aggressive for sure. But is there really anything wrong with it? I think that Dawah comes in different styles. Just like in any team sports, every individual has a different role that contributes to the overall effort. In soccer,
It's football, not soccer.
Oh, excuse me.
in football, the wingers are expected to be the fastest in the team. The midfielders should have the most precise passing. The goalie should probably have the best reflexes. Your goalie doesn't need to be the fastest guy out there. In fact, if he is, then you have some real problems. In cricket, the batsman is supposed to have strong discipline and... In Dawah, you have different people who come with different approaches to Dawah. A lot of people think there is only one perfect approach, and usually those are the people who've never done Dawah. I think there is one perfect example, but even with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had different approaches with different people and at different times during his life. He was merciful when he needed to be, he was diplomatic when he needed to be, and he exacted justice when he needed to. While none of us can reach the perfection of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we can all work together to learn and implement his methods based off what we are best at. In a nutshell, you can see this with the Dawah group in Speaker's Corner in the UK. You have the very gentle Abbas.
This is Islam, brother. A beautiful message.
You have the very entertaining Hamza, who owns everyone.
Listen, you've already been exposed as you sanctioned child rape, mate, and you're on video doing it.
Why? You don't have tolerance to listen to me.
Why not? Tolerance to listen to this?
Yes.
What am I listening to? Nonsense!
So clearly, both these brothers have different styles for Dawah. Their styles will work better with certain people and not work as effectively with others. Abbas might get stuck with an arrogant prick who Hamza is better at dealing with. Hamza might get stuck with a nice guy who doesn't appreciate the on-your-face Dawah style. Now for me to say, Brother Abbas, you need to step it up a bit with the aggression. Brother Hamza, stop being so aggressive. I don't agree with this. Sure, I don't want them to be one-dimensional. I want them to adjust with the people they're talking with, but I don't want them to fundamentally change their personality and do something they're not suited for. Look, let's come back to football. And look, I'm not the biggest fan of this sport, so bear with me on these examples. I know this is controversial, but I'm gonna assume this is the greatest player of all time. Do you think if we fill all 11 players with this guy, that this team will be great? Would you really want this guy being a goalie? I think it's safe to say that 11 Messis will not be able to create the most spectacular team. Of course, if there were 11 Ronaldos instead, the result might have been different. Similarly, in cricket, if you have 11... In Dawah, everyone can't be the calm, professional, and patient guy in front of non-Muslims because, quite frankly, that approach won't work with everyone. Take the case of Shabir Ali, for example, PhD Muslim debater in the Western world, who fits the profile of professional and patient. He's debated with some Christian heavyweights like William Lane Craig, and he's done pretty well. He's also debated with some total idiots, and those debates were a total mismatch.
That's how it is with Allah coming and telling us, yes, Jesus brought the Injil. Oh, okay, so he brought us this tremendous victory about a new king being enthroned, releasing his people from captivity, and the Lord returning to reign over his people. None of that fits Islam. So I conclude that the author of the Quran had no clue what he's talking about.
What?
See, people like this Hijra David Wood don't have to actually win a debate. They just have to attack Islam in such a vile and disgusting manner that their brainless fans will count that as a victory. You don't send philosophers to go argue with psychopaths.
I'm a diagnosed psychopath.
This is why I would say that Shabir Ali isn't the right preacher for this occasion. Who is the right preacher to combat David Wood's stupidity, you ask? I think you all know where this is heading.
I think David Wood has said some career-ending, embarrassing statements today. I mean, 20 years of attacking Islam. 99% of your content is anti-Islam. And all of those things you brought today were dismissed in 4 minutes. I gave you 4 questions. I did the service, sir, of answering all of your questions. You didn't even answer one of mine. How dare you?
You have complained that Mr. Wood have mocked Muslims.
Yeah.
And you have been mocking him all night.
Yeah. Now, just because your boy was smashed, to use Khabib's words.
This is a perfect role for Mohammed Hijab. I could not think of anyone better to pull off this spectacular humiliation of Wood than him. Now one might say, why even engage with such filth? Why not just say salam and ignore them? Because these aren't random people with no impact, and we have the ability to reply without fearing for our lives. These people have millions of followers, and our silence will only empower and embolden their ridiculous claims. We shouldn't get triggered by every lie that comes out of their mouth, but we need to give them an intellectual smackdown that they will remember for the rest of their life. It puts the liars on the back foot and inspires and gives confidence to millions of Muslims at the same time. I'm not denying the Quran verse. All I'm saying is that this is a different context. Our context is similar to when the Prophet ﷺ asked Hassan ibn Thabit, the Muslim poet, to refute the satirical poets of Mecca who were insulting Islam and the Prophet ﷺ by coming up with superior poetry. Now don't get me wrong, I want Hijab to smack the living daylight out of these fools, but I don't want him to use their tactics. I don't want him to be dishonest or deceptive. If Hijab turns into the Muslim version of these guys, I don't even know if I'd want to call him a Muslim anymore.
You are out. You are finished. You are done.
To summarize everything, if you're the type of guy who says, I don't like this aggressive approach, I don't like Darius trying to dominate, well, good for you. Maybe you don't need it, but you don't represent the world. The body language, the rhetoric, the aggression impacts millions around the world. Also, a quick side note here. I'm not giving a blanket approval of every behavior of Hijab on every platform. Yes, he can cater his style a little better to fit the audience. Yes, he might get too excited at times, which takes away from his main message, but being on the spot in front of millions isn't easy, and I'm sure he's actively trying to improve on these points as we speak. I mean, many people only discovered him recently. I've been watching him since Speaker's Corner days, and he seemed pretty composed there. Personally, I would recommend he takes a leaf out of George Galloway's book. Galloway is powerful in his rhetoric. He's never on the back foot, and he somehow still ends up destroying opponents while they are fully listening, without it turning into an emotional shouting match. It might not be the exact same thing, but compare Galloway's interview with Bill O'Reilly with Hijab on Piers Morgan to see what I'm referring to. Let's make dua for brother Mohammed Hijab to represent the Muslim world powerfully and effectively, inshallah, and not try to drag his confidence down by giving insecure criticisms by bashing his entire approach altogether. He's trying to represent Muslims on the global stage in a certain way, and even if he hasn't perfected it yet, he's getting there, inshallah. You might never see this video, Hijab, but you got my support.
Mashallah, brother!